Welcome to the Sabbath Cafe Podcast. This is episode 133, Simply Begin Again. For transcripts and more episodes, please go to sabbathcafe.substack.com. Hi everyone, thanks for listening to the Sabbath Cafe Podcast, and welcome to our first episode of 2025. I hope you all had a good holiday season, had a good restful time. Usually, me and my family, we take a break and some downtime at the end of the year. And so by the time January rolls around, supposedly we're all ready to go, right? I was very excited. I had a great break with a lot of new ideas. And so I thought, great, January started, new year, I am ready to go and jumping into all these new projects. But sometimes when you're so excited about a vision or all these things in your mind and you sit down at the table to start working on it, all of a sudden you feel so intimidated. I think for me, it's a few things all mixed together. There's the self-doubt of starting new projects and then just trying to get back into anything after a break always take time. And I know for sure that the first couple of tries, I will be making mistakes just because I'm trying to remember some of the things, trying to warm up. And as a recovering perfectionist, I often get stuck at this stage. I don't know why, but the idea of making mistakes often keep me from moving forward. And a few years back, I learned about this exercise of beginning again. How to begin again. And it has been so helpful for when I feel paralyzed in the process. This is actually an old Franciscan advice or exercise. Basically, it's to treat yourself as a beginner. And whatever project or whatever you're trying to do, just think of yourself doing it as a beginner. And it sounds simple, but it's such a powerful tool. When we begin again, we wipe the slate clean. We just toss away any expectation of ourselves and just reconnect and focus on what we need to work on. And it also helps to get rid of any guilt or shame you may feel about taking a break. The feelings of guilt and shame, they only keep us stuck looking at the past. They don't really help us move forward. And so when we begin again and start over, we can kind of put those things aside and simply jump back into the process. This is so helpful when you want to make any long-term changes, whether it's about exercising, eating better, or just building any new habits. It takes time for these new routines to form and to adapt. And so whenever you find yourself falling back into old habits or quitting new routines, there's no need to beat yourself up. Just simply begin again. This idea of starting and restarting as a beginner is also a great exercise for us folks who wrestle with ADHD tendencies. This practice removes so much of that self-criticism that we always hear in our thoughts, that brings the guilt and the shame. And so this exercises remove those things so we can simply move forward and start to re-engage with the process. If you have ADHD tendencies, you know what I'm talking about. Even before we start anything, that critical inner voice almost always has already killed any motivation. And so whenever I feel those old voices starting again, I just have to remind myself to simply begin again. Then I can just stop all those criticisms and remove all that self-sabotage. And so if you have been thinking about starting or restarting any projects or habit in the new year, I hope you will give this a try. Simply begin again and just take that next step. Treat yourself like a beginner and enjoy the process of learning and discovering. Treat yourself as a beginner and give yourself the grace to practice without any expectations. Learning to begin again really helped me get unstuck so many times in my process. I hope it'll be helpful for you too. And that's it for this episode. For a transcript and the podcast archive, please visit sabbathcafe.substack.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time